What if the most important love story of your life is the one you're only just beginning to write? What if turning 60 doesn't mean settling into the background, but gently stepping into a new kind of self-devotion? One rooted not in youth, appearance, or achievement, but in wisdom, tenderness, and quiet courage. Most people spend their younger years loving others more than themselves. They give, they sacrifice, they nurture, they carry the weight of families, dreams, and responsibilities. And somewhere along the way, the relationship they forget to nourish is the one with themselves. But Buddhism teaches a truth that feels especially powerful after 60. The way you love yourself becomes the way you experience the rest of your life. Self-love is not selfish. It is not ego. It is a peaceful recognition of your own worth, a worth that age cannot diminish. This video is your invitation to return to yourself with softness, to rediscover the tenderness you once reserved only for others, to fall in love with your own presence. These are 7 Buddhist lessons on how to love yourself more deeply, more fully, and more honestly than ever before. Let us begin. Lesson 1. Release the old stories and make space for your true self. Loving yourself after 60 begins with a quiet but revolutionary act, letting go of the stories that were never yours to carry. Throughout your life, people have told you who you should be. Be strong, be patient, be responsible, be agreeable, do not complain, do not be selfish, do not take up too much space. And so you learned to mold yourself for others, often at the cost of your own emotional freedom. These stories shaped your choices, your relationships, your beliefs, and even the way you speak to yourself in moments of doubt. But Buddhism teaches that identity is fluid. You are not the roles you played. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the expectations others placed upon you. And you are certainly not the limiting beliefs whispered by fear, regret, or the voices of the past. Your true self is not something you must become. Your true self is something you return to. At this stage of life, you possess something younger versions of you did not. Wisdom rooted in experience. You know what breaks you. You know what heals you. You know what drains your spirit, and you know what nourishes it. Loving yourself begins with honoring this wisdom, not dismissing it. Ask yourself gently, which beliefs about myself no longer serve me? Which expectations feel heavy on my heart? What version of myself have I outgrown without realizing it? You may discover you've been carrying stories inherited from childhood, from society, from relationships, from fear. But they are not you. They were never you. They were simply layers placed upon you by life. Self-love requires courage, the courage to release these layers so the light of your true self can breathe again. Let your past soften instead of define you. Let your mistakes teach instead of punish you. Let your wisdom guide instead of silence you. You are not too old to rewrite your story. You are finally wise enough to write the truest version of it. Lesson 2. Speak to yourself with the kindness you offer others. One of the deepest Buddhist teachings about self-love is this: you cannot hate yourself into healing. Yet many people over 60 hold themselves to impossible standards. They judge their bodies for changing, their minds for forgetting, their hearts for past choices. They replay moments of regret with a harshness they would never direct towards someone they love. But Buddhism teaches metta, loving kindness, as both a practice and a way of life. It begins not with changing the world, but with changing the way you speak to yourself. Think of how gently you comfort a child, a friend, or someone you care for. Your voice softens, your heart opens, you listen without judgment, you offer warmth, not criticism. Now ask yourself, why don't I offer this same tenderness to myself? Self-love after 60 is about learning to become your own sanctuary, to turn inward with compassion instead of disappointment. When you speak to yourself the way you speak to someone you cherish, something profound happens. Your inner world becomes a place of safety rather than conflict. The Buddha taught that the mind shapes experience. Harsh self-talk creates suffering. Gentle self-talk creates peace. Try noticing the tone of your inner voice throughout the day. When you forget something, when your body feels tired, when emotion rises unexpectedly, when you remember an old mistake. Do you criticize yourself, or do you soothe yourself? Metta practice invites you to repeat silently, "May I be kind to myself. May I forgive myself. May I be patient with myself. May I accept myself exactly as I am." These words are not empty affirmations, they are medicine. Spoken consistently, they reshape your relationship with yourself from within. You have spent decades caring for others. Now you are invited to turn that same love inward, not because life demands it, but because your heart deserves it. Lesson 3. Reclaim your presence. Learn to enjoy your own company. One of the most profound forms of self-love after 60 is learning to feel at home within your own presence. Not distracted, not lonely, simply present, rooted in yourself with ease and acceptance. For much of your life, your attention was outward. You cared for children, partners, co-workers, parents, friends. You were constantly pulled in many directions, and your value was often measured by how much you did for others. Silence was rare. Stillness was rare. Your own company was something you visited only in brief moments between responsibilities. But Buddhism teaches the art of returning home, to your breath, your awareness, your inner landscape. And as you age, this practice becomes not only healing, but essential. It is in these quiet moments that you meet the deepest parts of yourself, the parts that were overlooked when life was louder. Loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is being disconnected from yourself. Solitude is being reunited with yourself. Learning to enjoy your own company is like tending a garden. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, but slowly the soil becomes rich, the space becomes sacred, and the time you spend alone becomes nourishment instead of emptiness. Start by observing small moments of presence. When you sit in a quiet room, when you drink warm tea, when you take a slow walk, when you watch the sky shift in color, when you breathe deeply without rushing to the next task. Ask yourself, how does my breath feel? What sensations arise in my body? What emotions are visiting me right now? not to judge them, but simply to notice. In Buddhism, awareness is an act of love. When you sit with yourself without distraction, you are saying, I am worthy of my own attention. I am worthy of my own presence. I am worthy of my own care. This is self-love in its purest form. Being present with yourself also helps you break the habit of overthinking. The mind loves to wander into old memories or fear-filled predictions of the future. But presence, true presence, anchors you in the only place where real life happens, this moment. In this moment, you are safe. In this moment, you are whole. Loving yourself after 60 is not about filling your life with noise, activity, or people. It is about discovering the quiet joy of simply being. It is about realizing that your own company is worthy, comforting, and deeply peaceful. When you can sit with yourself and feel at ease, you unlock a kind of freedom that cannot be taken away by age, circumstances, or the opinions of others. You become your own source of comfort, your own anchor, your own home. This is the heart of Buddhist self-love, a deep, steady presence that says, I am here, and that is enough. Lesson 4. Accept impermanence and embrace your evolving self. To love yourself after 60 is to make peace with change, your body changing, your relationships shifting, your priorities evolving, your memories softening into stories rather than identities. Impermanence, anicca, is one of the central Buddhist teachings, and while it can feel unsettling at first, it is also the gateway to profound self-love. For most of your life, you were taught to hold on. Hold on to who you used to be. Hold on to physical strength. Hold on to roles and responsibilities. Hold on to youth as though it were a requirement for worth. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. Freedom comes when you release the grip. Impermanence is not a punishment. It is a reminder that life is always moving, unfolding, reshaping you. It is through change that you grow, through change that you discover new forms of wisdom, through change that you meet new versions of yourself, versions you never would have encountered without the passing of time. Loving yourself means embracing these new versions with openness instead of resistance. Impermanence becomes a source of suffering only when we cling. When we refuse to accept that life is naturally fluid, but when you soften into the reality of change, a beautiful peace emerges. You begin to appreciate experiences as they are, rather than how you think they should be. Ask yourself, which parts of my life am I still clinging to? Which versions of myself am I afraid to release? What new possibilities might open if I embraced who I am now? Self-love requires honesty, and honesty reveals that the version of you today, wiser, calmer, more grounded, is not lesser than your younger self. It is simply different. It carries a richness that only time can create. Think of a leaf changing color in autumn. Its beauty does not diminish when it transitions. It becomes deeper, warmer, more expressive. Age works the same way. It does not strip your value, it reveals it. When you embrace impermanence, you allow yourself to evolve without shame. You allow yourself to rest without guilt. You allow yourself to love who you are becoming instead of mourning who you once were. And that deep, honest acceptance is one of the greatest acts of self-love you can offer yourself after 60. Lesson 5. Honor your needs without guilt. Your well-being matters. One of the deepest lessons in Buddhism is recognizing your own worthiness, your right to rest, your right to boundaries, your right to care for yourself without guilt. For most of your life, your attention flowed outward. You cared for others, supported others, gave to others, often without stopping to ask whether your own needs were being met. And sometimes, without realizing it, you learned to treat your needs as secondary. But after 60, loving yourself becomes an act of reclaiming what you once pushed aside: your comfort, your preferences, your joy, your boundaries, your well-being. Buddhism teaches the middle way, a path of balance. It reminds you that caring for yourself is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of wisdom. When you honor your own needs, you prevent burnout, resentment, and emotional fatigue. You become more present, more grounded, more peaceful. You begin to live from a place of fullness instead of depletion. Ask yourself gently, where in my life have I ignored my needs? Where have I said yes when I wanted to say no? Where have I dismissed my own feelings because I thought someone else's needs were more important than mine? The heart does not thrive on neglect. Loving yourself after 60 means allowing your needs not only to exist, but to matter. If you are tired, you deserve rest. If someone drains your energy, you deserve distance. If you desire solitude, you deserve to reclaim it. If you crave connection, you deserve to reach for it. You have the right to choose experiences that nourish your spirit. One powerful Buddhist teaching reminds us that suffering begins when we betray ourselves, when we silence our inner truth to maintain harmony on the outside, when we dismiss our desires because we fear judgment or conflict. But suffering dissolves when you choose authenticity over appeasement. Authenticity is the highest form of self-love. Begin noticing the small ways you override your needs. Perhaps you stay in conversations that exhaust you. Perhaps you offer help even when you are emotionally drained. Perhaps you downplay your feelings to keep the peace. Perhaps you avoid setting boundaries because you fear disappointing others. Loving yourself after 60 means learning to say no without apology. It means allowing yourself days of rest without guilt. It means choosing environments, people, and routines that feel supportive rather than stressful. It means recognizing that your emotional and physical energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. Sometimes honoring your needs looks like small acts of self-kindness, making a cup of tea and sitting in silence, taking a slow walk, choosing to stay home instead of forcing yourself into social events, limiting how much of other people's emotional weight you carry. Sometimes honoring your needs means acknowledging your limits with compassion, not shame. Your body changes, your energy changes, your priorities change. And instead of fighting these changes, you are invited to support them. You are allowed to choose peace over obligation. You are allowed to choose rest over productivity. You are allowed to choose yourself. The Buddha taught that we must tend to our own minds the way we tend to a garden. A garden neglected becomes overrun. A garden cared for becomes peaceful and nourishing. When you honor your needs, you tend to your inner garden with patience and respect. This chapter of your life is not about doing more. It is about feeling more aligned, not about pleasing others. It is about returning to yourself, not about enduring, about honoring. You have spent decades loving from an empty cup. Now you are invited to fill your cup first, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Because when you honor your needs, you finally begin to treat yourself with the dignity you have always deserved. This is self-love in action. This is self-respect in practice. This is what it means to choose yourself with compassion, without apology. Lesson 6. Forgive yourself completely. Release regret and make room for peace. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism, not because it excuses the past, but because it frees the present. And one of the greatest acts of self-love after 60 is learning to forgive yourself fully and without condition. Many people carry regrets like shadows, things they wish they had done differently, words they wish they hadn't said, paths they wish they had taken. As the years pass, these regrets can become heavy. They can shape the way you see yourself, speak to yourself, and treat yourself. But Buddhism invites you to see your life with compassionate understanding. The person you were at 20, 30, 40, or 50 is not the person you are now. They did not have your wisdom, your emotional maturity, your perspective, or your experience. They acted from the awareness they had at that time. Forgiving yourself is not indulgence, it is liberation. Begin by acknowledging this truth. Everything you did with the understanding, the emotional tools, and the circumstances you had in that moment. You were learning, you were navigating, you were trying, you were evolving. The Buddha taught that clinging to regret is like gripping a burning coal. You are the one who gets hurt. Self-forgiveness is the process of putting the coal down. Ask yourself, what regrets am I still carrying? Which stories from my past do I keep replaying? What mistakes do I keep punishing myself for long after they ended? Notice how these regrets weigh on your heart. Notice how they shape your self-image. Notice how they prevent you from fully loving who you are today. But also notice something else. The regret is only a memory. The pain is only a visitor. The past is only a chapter, not the whole story. Loving yourself after 60 means choosing to live in the freedom of what is, not the prison of what was. Forgiveness does not change the past. Forgiveness changes your relationship with the past. You begin to say, I no longer need to punish myself to prove I'm sorry. I did the best I could with what I knew. I release myself from the suffering I've carried for too long. I let this go so I can breathe again. Self-forgiveness also includes forgiving your body, forgiving yourself for aging, forgiving the stiffness, the softness, the changes, forgiving the parts of you that feel vulnerable. Your body has carried you through decades of life, through storms and joys, through journeys you once believed you would never survive. It deserves gratitude, not criticism. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you know now. Forgive yourself for staying too long. Forgive yourself for leaving too late. Forgive yourself for choosing survival over happiness. Forgive yourself for not being perfect. No one is. Buddhism teaches that genuine forgiveness creates space. Space for joy, for peace, for clarity, for softness. When you forgive yourself, you unclench the heart. You loosen the grip of old wounds. You open the door to self-love that feels honest and unconditional. You stop carrying the weight of what cannot be changed and begin embracing the beauty of what still can be. Forgiveness is a gift you give to the person you are right now, and you deserve that gift. Lesson 7. Become your own source of love. Cultivate joy, purpose, and inner companionship. The most transformative Buddhist lesson of all is this: true love begins within your own heart, not as a reward, not as a result of others' validation, but as a steady, unconditional presence that rises from your own soul. After 60, life shifts in profound ways. Children grow older, relationships evolve, social circles change, roles fade, the world becomes quieter. And in this quiet, you may find yourself asking, what now? Who am I when no one needs me? Who am I when the world becomes still? Buddhism offers a gentle and empowering answer. You are someone worthy of your own love, perhaps more now than ever. Becoming your own source of love means cultivating inner companionship. It means learning to enjoy your own thoughts, your own presence, your own rhythm. It means recognizing that love does not depend on someone else's approval, affection, or recognition. The well of love within you does not run dry unless you abandon it. Begin by embracing what brings you joy, not the joy society markets, not the joy others expect, but the joy that feels soft, nourishing, and true. Perhaps it's reading in the early morning light. Perhaps it's cooking slowly, with intention. Perhaps it's walking gently among trees. Perhaps it's writing, painting, gardening, or learning something new. Perhaps it's sitting in stillness, feeling your breath move in and out of your body. Your joy does not need to be impressive, it only needs to be yours. Purpose also evolves with age. It no longer comes from doing, achieving, or proving. It comes from being present, being kind, being patient, being aware, being connected to your heart. Buddhism teaches that purpose is found in attentiveness. When you pay attention to your life as it is, without comparison, without pressure, you discover meaning in the smallest of moments, in the way sunlight touches your hands, in the warmth of a cup between your palms, in the comfort of simply breathing. Becoming your own source of love also means being gentle with yourself when emotions arise. After 60, memories can surface in unexpected ways. Longing, sadness, or reflection may visit you. Instead of pushing these feelings away, treat them like honored guests. Say to yourself, this emotion is part of my humanity. This too is allowed. This feeling does not make me weak. It makes me real. Inner companionship is built not by rejecting parts of yourself, but by welcoming all of them. You become your own love when you stop abandoning yourself emotionally, when you stop silencing your needs, when you stop pushing away your feelings, when you stop seeking external validation as the measure of your worth. You become your own love when you hold your own hand through difficult days, when you comfort yourself with kindness, when you celebrate yourself without waiting for permission. The Buddha taught that the greatest love you can offer is compassion, and the person who deserves it as much as anyone else in the universe is you. After 60, your love story is not fading. It is deepening into wisdom, into peace, into authenticity. You are no longer here to rush or to impress. You are here to feel, to soften, to enjoy, to awaken. You are becoming your own safe place, your own source of joy, your own gentle companion. And that is the kind of love that lasts. If these lessons touched your heart, let them sit with you like warm light. Loving yourself after 60 is not a task. It is a journey, a returning, a soft unfolding. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time for the most meaningful chapter of your life. May these teachings remind you of your worth. May you walk gently with yourself. May you feel loved from within. If you'd like more videos filled with Buddhist wisdom, mindfulness, and peaceful guidance, consider subscribing to our channel. Your presence helps us spread calm and healing to others around the world. Thank you for listening. May you be peaceful, may you be free, and may you love yourself more deeply with every breath.